pipelines. Several people have been killed after unknown gunmen opened fire during a military parade in the southwestern Iranian city of Avaz. Tanzanian President John Magufuli orders the arrest of the management of a ferry that capsized in Lake Victoria as the death toll climbs to 131. President Donald Trump ditches his early restraint in the scandal threatening his Supreme Court nominee, declaring that the woman who accuses the would-be justice of sexual assault when they were teens should not be believed. And our environment stories from our correspondents around the world. I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And now to the news. Several people have been killed after unknown gunmen opened fire during a military parade in the southwestern Iranian city of Avaz. Take a look. The semi-official Fars news agency, which is close to the elite Revolutionary Guard, said 2 gunmen on a motorcycle wearing khaki uniforms carried out the attack. The parade was marking the start of the Iran-Iraq war, which lasted between 1980 and 88. The report Saturday described the assailants as Takfiri gunmen, a term previously used to describe the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group, or ISIL. State television showed images of the immediate aftermath, and in it, paramedics could be seen helping someone in military fatigues laying on the ground. Other armed security personnel shouted at each other in front of what appeared to be a viewing stand for the parade. Now, Avaz is the capital of Iran's oil-rich Khuzestan province. The province in the past has seen Arab separatists attack oil pipelines. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif blamed, quote, a foreign regime backed by the United States for Saturday's attack. Terrorists recruited, trained, armed, paid by a foreign regime have attacked Avaz, Zarif said in a tweet, adding that Iran holds regional terror sponsors and their U.S. masters accountable for such attacks. Zarif vowed Iran will respond swiftly and decisively in defense of Iranian lives. In other news, former Senate President Aquilino Nene Pimentel on Friday urged the youth to reject any move to revise the true story of martial law. Pimentel warned the youth of those with selfish motives. On September 1, the country commemorated the 46th anniversary of the Declaration of Martial Law. Take a look.
Ang masabi ko na lang sa ating mga kabataan na huwag kayong magpadala ng mga opinion ng ibang mga tao who really have hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda is to justify the excesses of the martial law regime and to show that they should therefore be given a chance to serve our people through the elections that are forthcoming. Huwag natin pahintulutan yan.
Meanwhile, Tanzanian President John Magufuli ordered the arrest of the management of a ferry that capsized in Lake Victoria as the death toll climbed to 131 and rescue workers pressed on with a search to find scores more people feared drowned. Reportedly, the ferry was carrying over 400 passengers when it capsized, but it was only built for 100 passengers. Now, witnesses said the ferry sank when passengers rushed to one side to disembark as it approached the dock. The voyage is a routine one and the ferry would make it 8 times a day. The ferry was reportedly busy because it was a market day, meaning not only were there more passengers, but there was more cargo. Now, officials said it would be difficult to know exactly how many fatalities there were because the ticket agent has died in the accident and the ticket machine was lost. Now, the president declared 4 days of national mourning while saying at least 131 people had died, updating an earlier death toll of 126. Magufuli also announced the government would cover the funeral expenses of the victims. Mwanza Governor John Mongela had earlier said the number of survivors was 40, but it was unclear whether any new survivors had been found since rescue operations resumed with police and army divers on Friday morning. The woman whose sexual assault allegation threatened to bring down Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee was on Friday given more time to decide on testifying in the Senate, hours after the U.S. president claimed her accusation could not be true. Christine Blasey Ford, a California professor who says conservative Judge Brett Kavanaugh carried out a violent sexual assault against her when he was 17 and she was 15, insists she's ready to testify under oath before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Kavanaugh has repeatedly agreed to testify before the Republican-led Senate Judiciary Committee, saying he wants to clear his name. Now, meanwhile, Ford's lawyers say the professor's life has been turned upside down, having received death threats and been forced out of her home. The choice of a new justice for the Supreme Court is pivotal, as it often gives the final word on highly contentious laws, and its 9 judges have an immense impact on U.S. public life. As Trump's pick, Brett Kavanaugh has to first approve in the Senate before he can take his seat, but before that vote can happen, he has to be approved by the Judiciary Committee, where Professor Ford may testify. The Senate is made up of 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats, so any testimony she gives on the allegations could prove pivotal. Now, some have said there should not be a vote on his confirmation until Professor Ford has been heard. Meanwhile, President Trump defended his Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, accused of having sexually abused a woman when they were in high school during a Make America Great Again rally in Las Vegas. Take a look.
Brett Kavanaugh and I'm not saying anything about anybody else, but I want to tell you that Brett Kavanaugh is one of the finest human beings you will ever have the privilege of knowing or meeting. A great intellect, a great gentleman, an impeccable reputation, went to Yale, top student, went to Yale Law School, top student. So we got to let it play out, but I want to tell you, he is a fine, fine person.
And staying in the U.S., U.S. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein denied a report that he had suggested looking for ways to remove President Trump on grounds of mental fitness, just months after the president took office. Now, Rosenstein said that the New York Times report, which alleged that he also proposed around early May 2017 that cabinet members record Trump for evidence of his mental fitness as inaccurate and factually incorrect. Rosenstein and the Justice Department did not deny the remarks themselves, but suggested they had been made jokingly. Now, they were apparently made in the presence of other senior Justice Department officials only weeks after Rosenstein took office on April 29, 2017. According to the Times, Rosenstein made them just after Trump used a memo he wrote to fire FBI Director James Comey, who the U.S. president was angry with over the investigation into alleged collusion by members of Trump's election campaign with Russia. According to the Times, Rosenstein was unhappy about being used by Trump in the firing of Comey, as well as concerned about other turmoil in the White House under the new president. He allegedly suggested invoking the U.S. Constitution's 25th Amendment, which provides for removing a president if they are judged unfit for office, and also recruiting top cabinet officials or Trump aides to record the president for proof. In other news, 5 people, including 3 infants, were stabbed in Flushing, Queens daycare center overnight on Friday, September 21. Now, police responded to Mason Inc. daycare around 3:30 in the morning to find a 3-day-old girl and a 1-month-old girl stabbed in their abdomens, and a 20-day-old girl cut on her lip, chin, and ear. Now, authorities say a butcher knife and a meat cleaver were also discovered. The Daily Beast reported that police found the alleged suspect, 52-year-old Yufen Wang, a daycare employee, in the basement of the home with 8 stabs to her torso and apparent self-inflicted slash wounds to her wrist. Now, police said another injured female daycare employee was discovered at the scene alongside the father of one of the children who received stab wounds to his leg. Police say the victims are in stable condition and Wang has been arrested with pending charges. A car plowed into worshippers outside a mosque in London, injuring at least 3 people. Take a look. Now, authorities are calling it a hate crime. It happened Wednesday, September 19, around 12:30 a.m. outside this Islamic center after a confrontation with a group of 4 people. The group, who police say were drinking and doing drugs, allegedly unleashed Islamophobic comments. Then they got into a Nissan Juke and began mowing down people going some 60 miles per hour. Now, witnesses say it proceeded to make off at speed, colliding with 3 individuals as it left. It said it was hitting people like dominoes. Now, children and elderly worshippers were among those running from the car as it swerved. One witness said it was an attack on our community fueled by hatred. Detective Sergeant Kelly Shonhage from the local investigating team said the incident was being treated very seriously and appealed for witnesses to come forward. Extra neighborhood police patrols have been stepped up in the area. The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. Some of the species that you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
For business news, this is Cesar Vallejos. The local stock market slipped to bear territory on Wednesday as local inflation jitters escalated in the aftermath of Typhoon Mangkhut. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index tumbled by 65.11 points or 0.89% to close at 7,221.23. weighed down by foreign outflows even as regional markets mostly bounced. The local stock barometer has now slid by 1,857.14 points or 20.4% from its all-time high of 9,078.37 that was hit on January 29 this year. A downturn of 20% or more from a record high that lasts for at least 2 months is considered an entry into a bear market or a period of consistently falling prices of securities, the opposite of a bull market. After hitting record highs in January, the Philippine Stock Exchange Index touched bear territory in June this year, but immediately recovered. The country's dollar transactions with the rest of the world made a turnaround in August from its consistent deficit this year as the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reported a surplus in the country's balance of payments position. Data released on Wednesday showed the country's BOP hit a surplus of $1.27 billion in August this year. This is the first BOP surplus of the country for the year. It is also a reversal of the $7 billion deficit seen in the same month last year. The August BOP surplus is the largest monthly surplus on record since January 2013. Inflows in August 2018 stemmed mainly from net foreign currency deposits of the national government and income from the BSP's investments abroad during the month, the BSP said in a statement on Wednesday. The central bank further said that the inflow could have been larger if not partially offset by the payments made by the national government for its foreign exchange obligation and the foreign exchange operations of the BSP during the month. Foreign exchange operations have also been earlier blamed for the falling gross international reserves of the country. The BSP earlier vowed to keep its presence in the foreign exchange market to smoothen out any volatility that may be detrimental to the economy. Despite the strong BOP performance of the country in August, the 8th-month cumulative BOP position of the country remains in the red. Despite recent economic headwinds experienced by the economy, online hiring in the Philippines increased 18% on the back of a robust online hiring activities in retail, health, and logistics, according to Monster.com. In a statement on Wednesday, Monster.com said July was a good month for retail, where online hiring grew 39%, healthcare 33%, and logistics 31%. The data was based on the Monster Employment Index, which is a gauge of online job posting activities compiled monthly by Monster.com. The Philippine banking system is gearing up for robust growth in the next decade, international credit watcher Moody's Investor Service said on Tuesday, owing largely to the country's favorable population mix and rising per capita income. In its most recent review on Asia-Pacific banks, Moody's said that the Philippine banking system is one of those that are looking to benefit from rapid and divergent demographic changes. Over the next decade of the 17 banking systems in Asia-Pacific, banks in Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, and Taiwan in particular will face challenges for the effects of shrinking prime-age populations and declining proportions of working people, Moody's Senior Vice President Christine Ko said. By contrast, banks in India, Indonesia, and the Philippines will see growth opportunities in the same period from the effects of rapidly growing prime-age populations and increasing proportions of working people. The credit watcher said these countries with favorable demographic trends will benefit banks most when accompanied by income growth and technological advancements. The Philippines can boost trade with the U.S. amid its escalating trade war with China as it looks for other sources of capital goods, the National Economic and Development Authority said. During the economic briefing for banks and other finance institutions late Tuesday, Socioeconomic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said that the imposition of steeper tariffs on Chinese imports, the U.S. may turn to the Philippines for imports of key capital goods such as electronics, transport equipment, and non-agricultural products. The trade war will have a positive net effect on the Philippines. That is because our main exports to the U.S. comprise electronic and transport equipment, as well as non-agricultural products, chemical and rubber products, ferrous metals, and mineral products as inputs to their production, he told Investment Strategies. By NEDA's preliminary analysis, increased outbound shipments of these products to the U.S. would contribute $34.7 million to the country's gross domestic product in 2018 and is expected to rise to $50.7 million by 2022 to 2023. From 2018 to 2022, this would average $42.2 million. Pernia noted, however, that this simulation for the top Philippine exports to the U.S. at the moment is only an indicative figure and would still have to be subjected to a more detailed analysis. Electronics, which remain the top Philippine export commodity worldwide, are also shipped to China. But NEDA, for now, has not yet conducted simulations for the Chinese market. Pernia believes that while imports of such commodities from the Philippines would be a little more expensive, Philippine products are competitive. Worsening trade tensions and exchange of tariffs could cause significant economic costs to the global economy, an International Monetary Fund spokesman warned. The United States is due to impose punitive tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese goods on Monday, bringing the total to $250 billion on top of separate duties on steel and aluminum from around the globe. China has retaliated on $110 billion in U.S. goods, the majority of all its imports from the United States.
The imposition of additional tariffs by the United States on Chinese imports could come at a significant economic cost. Again, we're in the process of assessing that. The impact obviously depends, in terms of China, for example, the impact on China, how much China's domestic policies would be adjusted to dampen the negative growth effects, and the impact of the trade dispute on global confidence and financial conditions. In terms of, the US, we would expect its growth would also be affected. Don't have any numbers for you today, but again, we'll be looking at that and offering that at the time of the wheel. And of course, should the escalation go further, as you suggested, the economic costs for both countries and around the world will quickly add up. Christine Lagarde has said before, and I'll just repeat it here, there are no winners in a global trade war.
China is now paying us big.
Prime Minister Theresa May hit back Friday at the European Union after it roundly rejected her Brexit plan, saying its refusal to compromise was not acceptable and warning she was still prepared to walk away from the talks. In a defiant statement from Downing Street, May blamed Brussels for the impasse just weeks ahead of a deadline to seal a deal and 6 months before Britain leaves the EU in March. European Council President Donald Tusk said a compromise was possible, but the UK proposals had to be reworked.
Everybody shared the view that while there are positive elements in the Chequers proposal, the suggested framework for economic cooperation will not work, not least because it risks undermining the single market.
Yesterday, Donald Tusk said our proposals would undermine the single market. He didn't explain how in any detail or make any counter-proposal. So we are at an impasse. It is not acceptable to simply reject the other side's proposals without a detailed explanation and counter-proposals. So we now need to hear from the EU what the real issues are and what their alternative is, so that we can discuss them. Until we do, we cannot make progress. In the meantime, we must and will continue the work of preparing ourselves for no deal.
That's it for business news. This is Cesar Vallejos. I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay with us.
The death toll from a landslide in Cebu in the central Philippines has now risen to 29, according to police, as rescuers frantically dug for survivors of the latest tragedy in the storm-hit nation. Now, dozens were still missing as authorities probed whether a nearby rock quarry could have played a role in the massive hillside collapse this Thursday that hit rural communities in Naga on the tourist island of Cebu. The rescue effort came as the nation was still reeling from Typhoon Mangkhut, whose toll hit 95 on Thursday, mostly from a massive landslide in the country's mountainous north. The Philippine National Police said rescuers on Cebu have pulled 29 corpses from the debris as people living in homes spared from the landslide were evacuated as a precaution. Hundreds of police, firemen, and specialists using heavy equipment were looking for about 50 people, Provincial Disaster Office spokesman Julius Regner said. Now, authorities are not sure whether the limestone quarry near the slide-hit area contributed to the disaster, but they've ordered a temporary 15-day halt to quarry operations around the country as a precaution. Environment Secretary Roy Simatu told a press conference the government will conduct a national review to determine the safety of quarry operation areas, most especially the surrounding communities. Cebu was not directly hit by Mangkhut, the world's strongest typhoon this year, but it has been pounded by heavy monsoon rains for days, making the slopes dangerously loose. The EU delegation to the Philippines joined the Manila Bay cleanup on September 22 in Rojas Boulevard, Manila. The European Union has ever since been an advocate for a cleaner environment and litter-free marine resources. The European Union Ambassador, Franz Jensen, said that the delegation's participation in the cleanup is an expression of solidarity of the EU with the Philippines in ensuring that our oceans are rid of plastic wastes and other pollutants. The EU delegation collaborated with the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary and the International Coastal Cleanup Volunteers and were joined by other staff from the Danish and the French embassies. Ambassador Jensen said that the European Commission, during the early part of the year, adopted a circular economy action plan to foster a transition to a stronger and more circular economy where resources are used in a more sustainable way. The plan aims to ensure that all plastic packaging on the EU market will be recyclable by 2030, the consumption of single-use plastic significantly reduced, and the intentional use of microplastics restricted. Plastic litter has become a major concern in Asia, including in the Philippines, and the EU delegation is currently engaged in close dialogue with the government on the development of a national strategy for improving plastic waste management and reducing leakages of plastic waste in the marine environment. A regional program is also foreseen for a period of 3 years, starting in 2019, to enhance policy dialogue, exchange, shared knowledge, and lessons learned from Europe, capacity enhancement, technology transfer, and piloting of solutions for better plastic waste management in the Asian region. All right. Moving on, the area with the most number of fatalities due to the onslaught of Super Typhoon Mangkhut, known in the Philippines as Ompong, is the mining town of Itogon, Benguet. Many of the fatalities were buried in the landslide and more are still unaccounted for. The non-stop aid for humanity of the Iglesia ni Cristo now continues in Itogon. The Felix Y. Manalo Foundation traveled to Itogon to reach its communities and offer relief assistance to its badly battered residents, many of whom hang on a thin string of hope as they recuperate from their loss. The Iglesia ni Cristo, a Church of Christ, conducted an aid for humanity offering free relief packages and medical services.
Malaking bagay po ito para sa komunidad po, and nagpapasalamat po kami in behalf sa community na may pumunta po talaga para sa the whole community po.
Nagpapasalamat kami sa ANC na nagbigay sa amin ng ganitong tulong, malaking tulong. Lalo na sa mga sa relief na binigay sa amin, malaking tulong sa amin.
Actually, ito lang ang unang religious sect na officially na nagdala ng kanilang tulong sa kanilang mga kapatid po. Nagpapasalamat ako kay Apo Eduardo Manalo sa kanyang Iglesia ni Cristo na napakabuti po. Hindi ko masabi sa Tagalog. He is really that person to his heart is with the people, with his people. So sinasabi ko pa ito sa mga ibang religious group, tularan po ninyo ang aksyon ng Iglesia ni Cristo.
Tuloy-tuloy po ang ginagawa natin paglingap sa mamamayan. Sila po ay kinakalinga natin sa pamamagitan ng ating pagtulong at sa pamamagitan ng ating pagmamalasakit. Pinakikita natin ito at ito'y kanilang buong pusong ipinagpapasalamat sa ating pong pamamahala na inilagay sa loob ng iglesia.
Tayo po ay lubos na nagpapasalamat sa kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo, ang tagapamahalang pangkalahatan ng Iglesia ni Cristo, sapagkat patuloy po na pinangungunahan ng ating namamahala sa Iglesia ni Cristo ang buong iglesia sa ganitong mga kilusan na kahayagan ng pagsunod ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa mga salita ng Diyos na nasa Biblia.
U.S. President Donald Trump called Hurricane Florence, that has caused the death of over 30 people, one of the wettest he's ever seen. Earlier, President Trump toured storm-battered areas of the Carolinas, and he promised a 100% support of the federal government to the victims of Hurricane Florence. Take a look.
This is a tough hurricane, one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Rarely have we had an experience like it, and it certainly is not good. There's been a loss of life, and may God be with them and their families. That's a tough one. It's tough to understand, but this has been a really difficult period of time for a lot of people.
Although more than 200 miles away from the Carolina coast, inland North Carolina cities are not spared from flooding threats brought about by Tropical Storm Florence. Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot reports from High Point, North Carolina.
Although Hurricane Florence didn't wreak havoc with one devastating blow like some were expecting, its impact here in North Carolina is no less a concern, as this slow-moving storm dumps large amounts of rain in the region, causing flooding and taking lives. According to the U.S. National Weather Service, Central Carolina counties such as Guilford, where we are at now, are under a flash flood watch with the potential of catastrophic and life-threatening flooding. Joining Eagle News today is Andrew King, resident of Winston-Salem. Hello, Mr. King. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Andrew, what has the local government done to prepare the county with this threatening flooding caused by Florence?
I know according to the news, they had our governor, Governor Roy Cooper, instructing everyone to be on the safe side, to get the necessary things that is needed. And also even the locals of our cities giving the same instruction of getting the necessary things needed for the flooding, because there was speculating that we'll have a lot of power outage and stuff. So you should have the necessary things that is needed in case of such emergency.
What would be these necessary things?
Probably like get a lot of bottle of water, flashlights, and a first aid kit, and a lot of canned foods and stuff. So in case if the power go out for a long time, they should have things to depend on till everything is restored.
Yeah, especially with flooding, clean water or potable water is a concern, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Andrew, It's pouring for hours now since last night. Most of the residents here are indoors in their houses. What brings you out here in this kind of weather?
Today is Sunday. I mean, despite the bad inclement weather we are having, come to church to give praises to our Almighty God. I mean, rainstorm, doesn't really matter. What is most important is having a strong faith and conviction to serve the Almighty God.
Well, that's devotion right there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Reporting from High Point, North Carolina for Eagle News, I am Eliza Gonzalez Mangkhut, always one with 25.
A tornado sparked chaos near the Canadian capital, Ottawa, injuring dozens. Take a look. Now, homes were damaged, cars flipped over, and over 130,000 people left without power. Meteorologists reported gusts wind up to 120 miles per hour or 190 kilometers per hour, with the city of Gatineau, about 5 miles north of the capital, taking the brunt. Images on social media showed homes with damaged rooftops and trees torn apart as the debris was seen swirling through the air in this dramatic video footage. Now, there was a power cut, and less than a minute later, the wind began to hit the windows, according to Vincent Carr Lerich, who filmed this video. The debris was flying everywhere, he said, and I had never seen anything like it except in Hollywood, the 30-year-old said, adding he saw sofas and freezers that had been blown into the street. Now, Ottawa Emergency Services official Anthony DeMonte told local media around 30 people were injured and 5 of them seriously. Meanwhile, electricity company Hydro-Quebec reported over 130,000 customers were without power in the Ottawa area Friday evening. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau urged residents to check on neighbors who might need help. A weather alert was put in place in the afternoon for all of southern Ontario and Quebec. Winds east by the time they reached Greater Montreal, which was hit by heavy rains but escaped major damage. All right, more weather reports from Canada. Something you don't expect to see in the middle of September. An early snowfall. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
According to the calendar, it's still summer. Fall isn't until September 22nd, but here I am brushing snow off my truck. Since the beginning of September, people in northern Alberta have been enduring below-average temperatures and rain mixed with snow. Temperatures have been hovering near the freezing point, and because of cloud cover, we don't see much sunshine. It's just plain miserable. Normally, temperatures in this part of the province would be in the low to mid-teens. Harvesting of crops has been delayed, and grain farmers worry if there's much more snow, crops will be damaged, which translates into less money for lower quality grain. But there may be cause for optimism. A couple of the signs of winter that have not yet been noticed: there are no flocks of migratory birds in the sky flying south to warmer climates. And the fur on rabbits turns white when winter is about to set in, so they can better hide from predators. As you can see, this little guy is still wearing his summer colors. According to the Weather Network, it will be the last week of September before things return to normal. Despite the cool temperatures and snow, it's still better than many parts of the world where they're experiencing weather calamities. Enjoying the last few days of summer in Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. I'm one with 25.
With all the devastation brought about by Super Typhoon Mangkhut in northern Luzon, Philippines, and in southern China, it's easy to forget they weren't the only regions affected by the calamity. EBC Micronesia correspondent Francesca Joy Miran gives us a look back on how this storm began.
Typhoon Mangkhut started out in the Western Pacific as Tropical Depression 26 West on September 7 before becoming a typhoon 2 days later. On September 10, Mangkhut arrived in the Mariana Islands as a Category 2 typhoon with winds of up to 110 miles an hour. The islands of Guam and Saipan bore the brunt of the storm, as seen in these videos. According to the Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs, some 63,000 Filipinos in Guam and Northern Mariana Islands were affected by the storm. Earlier today, Guam's Governor Eddie Calvo delivered a message of assurance to citizens throughout the island territory that relief from the federal government and other agencies are on its way.
And being governor, there is a weight of responsibility to ensure the safety of our people. And with your help in making sure that your family was prepared and safely in your homes, we were able to make it through the storm. I have been in contact with the White House regarding assistance for our displaced families and in hopefully getting some more help for Guam Memorial Hospital. My office will be sending additional information to them so that they can better understand our situation and hopefully pull down some of those roadblocks that hinder our progress.
Meanwhile, here's a reaction from one of the residents in this part of the Pacific.
The local government does a very good job in reminding and informing all the residents here in regards to any incoming inclement weather. That's why we always have, we make sure that we always have our necessities, such as extra drinking water, extra food, and all the basic necessities. We also make sure that just in case that there are strong winds here, that we stay indoors as much as possible. But then the people here, it's still business as usual. Now, during the actual super typhoon, what we experienced here was, yes, there were very high and strong winds, but then there were also a few scattered brownouts. Some areas also suffered from losing water, but then within hours, the electricity and the water also came back.
Reporting from Corp, Palau, I'm Francesca Jomiran for Eagle News. I'm on the 25.
Now, over in Macau, Iglesia Ni Cristo members immediately went to the aid of those affected by Super Typhoon Mangkhut. The members immediately assembled for their cleanup drive. To recall, on Sunday, September 16, Typhoon Mangkhut made landfall in southern China and Hurricane Signal number 10 was put in force. Kit Wong reports.
After the strong Typhoon Mangkhut hit Macau and Hong Kong, members of the Church of Christ or Iglesia Ni Cristo immediately assembled here for their cleanup drive.
On the 16th of September, Macau and Hong Kong were strongly battered by Typhoon Mangkhut, considered as one of the strongest to hit the region since the records began, and marked as the strongest storm worldwide so far this year. At 11 a.m. on Sunday, the Macau government has raised the Typhoon Signal number 10, the highest category in the city's typhoon warning system, with the nearest distance of 70 kilometers from Macau and winds as high as 200 kilometers per hour. Typhoon Mangkhut brought severe flooding in low-lying areas of Macau. But through the government precautions, public announcements was made the day before Typhoon landed in Macau, which forced thousands of residents to evacuate to temporary shelters. All hotels' operations, for the first time, were shut down by the government due to the severity of the storm. Hundreds of flights were cancelled and public transportation were brought to a stop. Thousands of households were also affected by power outage as the electricity supplier has cut down power supply in the lower-lying areas being flooded to ensure public safety. Typhoon Signal number 10 was downgraded by the government to Signal number 8 at 8 p.m. of Sunday as Typhoon Mangkhut slowly moved away from Macau. On Monday after the typhoon, Iglesia Ni Cristo or Church of Christ, members from the district of Macau were seen rendering a humanitarian effort through their clean-up drive activity. The brethren went out together in the streets of Macau, hand in hand to help clean the roads, clear up the paths and pathways from fallen leaves and branches caused by the typhoon. This humanitarian activity was led by the district supervising minister, Brother Celestino Brasafa, along with the other ministers and church officers. The brethren once again showed their solid unity by tirelessly participating in such activity for environment care.
Pagkatapos po na magkaroon ng malakas na bagyo dito po sa Macau at sa Hong Kong na signal number 10, ay nagsagawa po agad ang Iglesia ni Cristo ng isang project na ito po ay clean-up drive na dinaluhan po ng mga ministro at pamilya po ng mga ministro, ng mga may tungkulin at ng mga kapatid. Ang totoo po, itong araw na ito ay signal number 3 pa rin. Subalit, nagpaalam po yung mga kapatid at pinayagan ng kanilang mga employers, at masaya po ang kalooban ng mga employers na pinayagan po yung kanilang mga kasama na yun ang mga kapatid na sumama po dito sa ginawang paglilinis po ng Iglesia ni Cristo dito po sa dako ng Macau. Ito po'y ginawa namin bilang project po at pakikipagkaisa na rin sa ating pong tagapamahalang pangkalahatan ng kapatid na Eduardo Manalo, na kami ay kailangan magkaroon din ng magandang pakikitungo sa mga mamamayan, sa community at sa mga tao po ng pamahalaan. Kinikilala po namin na ito isang malaking tulong na rin sa Iglesia para lalong makatawag po ng pansin sa mga tao na sila man ay magsiyasat tungkol sa Iglesia ni Cristo. Maraming salamat po, at salamat din po sa kapatid na Eduardo Manalo na patuloy na nagmamahal at nagmamalasakit sa Iglesia.
Kahit na nakakapagod po yung ginawa namin mga paghahanda at pagsasayos pagkatapos po nung malakas na bagyo kahapon hanggang kagabi po, ngayon po yung ginawa naming pakikipagkaisa sa aming namamahala na pagtulong po sa kapwa, tulad po ng ganito, paglilinis, pagtulong namin sa pamahalaan ng bansang ito, masarap po sa pakiramdam. Masaya po kaming mga magkakapatid sa Iglesia.
From Macau, reporting for Eagle News, I am Kip Wong and I am one with 25.
The Iglesia ni Cristo recently held a medical mission for the people of Malaysia in Bangsar, Kuala Lumpur. On the ground is Rose Victoria.
The Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ from the local of Bangsar is offering a free medical services to their fellow countrymen and their friends to commemorate its 3rd year anniversary.
In commemoration of the local's 3rd year anniversary on October 7, 2018, the local leadership headed by Christian Family Organization and with the help of the volunteers, they have conducted medical mission to reach out to those members and non-members who needed health screening. The charity mission also shares its faith through video presentation.
Halos lahat ay tumugon sa panawagang ito na inilunsad ng pamamahala kasama po ng ating mga kapatid, ng mga panauhin, mga dinudoktrinahan, at ang mga kaibigan po natin, bagamat hindi po natin kapanampalataya. Kasama po natin sila ngayon na nakinabang dito po sa medical mission ng lokal ng Bangsar.
Ito ay panata namin na upang lalo pang makatulong sa ating pamamahala na makapagbigay ng kaalaman pagdating sa usaping medikal, sa kanilang kalusugan. At patuloy namin itong gagawin. Kung kailangan every week ay magsasagawa kami ng ganitong mga pagme-medical mission. At ang mga bagay namin inihanda, yung mga gaya ng BP set, yung blood pressure set, yung stethoscope, sphygmomanometer, at yun namang ginagamit natin na pang-check ng sugar, yung glucometer, pati na yung glucose strip. Yan po lahat ay galing po sa aming sariling ambagan. So ito po talaga ay para sa mga kapatid natin na nangangailangan.
As a medical practitioner, ito po render ko lang po sa ating mga kapatid. Wala pong anuman po to para po ma-monitor namin yung kanilang blood sugar, blood pressure, and then to maintain their vital signs properly po. Hindi lang po ito ngayon nangyayari. Lagi-lagi po namin ito ginagawa dito sa lokal namin ng Bangsar at sa ibang lokal pa po.
I am happy right now to be part of this medical mission here in local of Bangsar. So I feel very blessed that we do have volunteers here, registered nurses, that helping us, and I feel very happy and blessed that the Pamamahala has these kind of activities to look after the well-beings of the brethren.
The activity is meant to reach out to every Filipinos and non-Filipinos alike and to those non-members of the church. Reporting from Eagle News Service in Kuala Lumpur, this is Rose Victoria and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Rose. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG. Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCV, rated responsable.
Health is our most